Hello, I am Peter Okwacha. Welcome to Focus on Africa. Our top stories. Russia sets its sights on Africa, pledging to double trade with the continent in the next 5 years.
I'm in Grays, southeast of England, where the police are trying to establish the identity of 39 people who were found dead in the back of a lorry this morning.
A highly contested election has closed in Botswana. Will the party that has ruled for 53 years finally give way to the opposition? Also on the program, around the world in 900 days.
Welcome to North Korea.
And that's only one of many destinations as we meet a traveler who's become the first black woman to visit every country in the world. And in sports, it's more Champions League action tonight, and Egypt's Mohamed Salah could return for Liverpool following an ankle injury. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Russia aims to double trade with Africa in the next 5 years. That's according to Russian President Vladimir Putin as he declared the first ever Russia-African summit open in the holiday resort of Sochi. At least 40 African leaders are there, including those of Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa. The two-day summit is aimed at improving relations and inking trade deals which could have significant global implications. The summit is being co-chaired by Egypt President Sisi, who heads the African Union in Sochi on the Black Sea, site of the 2014 Winter Olympic Games. But it's here that Russia hopes to do big business with. Since 2010, it has quadrupled the amount of trade it does with Africa. Last year, that figure reached $20.4 billion. Along with oil and gas exploration, Russia's keen to expand its mining of Africa's minerals, including bauxite, platinum, nickel, and diamonds. In 2018, Africa accounted for a third of Russia's total arms sales, Egypt and Algeria topping the list. And perhaps more significantly, though, Russia has signed 20 military cooperation deals with African countries since 2015. And Russia is also keen to develop Africa's nuclear infrastructure. It's already agreed to build reactors in Egypt, Nigeria, and Rwanda. And a number of other African countries have signed agreements with Moscow to help them explore nuclear technology. Well, our Africa business reporter, Georgie Ndirangu, is in Sochi for us and can give us the latest.
I'm here at the venue of the Russia-Africa 2019 summit, where different African countries have convened to discuss trade and avenues of growth. Now, analysts have murmured about what's happening here. Questions ranging from where was Russia after the Cold War, and what happens when we already have global superpowers like Europe, China and America getting the lion's share of trade globally, not only in Africa. Think about it this way. China exports up to $200 billion worth of exports to Africa. Russia only gets a tenth of that, so there's need to diversify. One such area is ammunition. No wonder why I'm standing here. Russia exported $1 billion worth of ammunition to Africa between 2009 and 2013. That's according to the Stockholm Research Institute. This means that there's a serious business case made. And today we saw Niger and Russia sign a contract to deliver 12 military aircrafts. Another area is infrastructure, as evidenced by Egypt with the nuclear zone and industrial processing zone. And we already saw President Cyril Ramaphosa from South Africa mention that the continental free trade area would make Russia and Africa's partnership more meaningful. So there's a lot of trade deals that are set to happen tomorrow as the summit comes to a close, and we'll continue to keep track of them. But for now, this is definitely just the beginning.
Georgie Ndirangu there live from Sochi. So what does Russia aim to get from Africa? Sergei Goryashko is the BBC's Russia reporter. He joins us now from Moscow. Sergei, what does Russia want from Africa?
Actually, this summit looks like an attempt from Russia to gain the Soviet Union power in Africa. As we know, like 50 years ago, Soviet Union was really very, very strong in the African continent, and they actually gave lots of loans to African countries in exchange of their thinking that the Soviet Union is the main power in the world. But now, when in the 90s Russia stopped helping Africa with the money, it can't be like so easy to get back to the level of the Soviet Union power there. So here in Sochi, the President Vladimir Putin is trying to show that Russia is still aiming to help African countries and is still trying to gain its influence on the continent. Nevertheless, China and the United States are the main actors there on the continent, as their trade and there in African countries is much more bigger than Russian.
Now, in the last couple of years, maybe even last 2 decades, we've seen a huge influx of Chinese investment into the continent, much to the annoyance of some of the other big African partners. What exactly is Russia offering Africa as a continent?
Actually, Russia can offer Africa as a continent as much as China or the United States can. Russian economy just does not have enough money to invest such large amounts into the African continent in the first place. Secondly, China and United States are the main actors there, and it will be difficult to compete with them. And third, Russia is just aiming to have some influence in exact countries on the continent, like Central African Republic or Libya or Egypt, South Sudan. And very often their actions there is like giving military support to the president of the country and trying to make them their friends. But actually, as for the trading, China and the United States remain the two greatest powers there, and it will be very difficult for Russia to beat them on the African continent. Okay. So this summit is just like a more of a very more trying to show that Russia can do a lot, but it's about the image, not about the sense.
Sergei Goryashkov, thank you very much, our BBC reporter there in Moscow. Well, here in the UK, a huge murder investigation is underway after the bodies of 39 people were found inside a lorry container east of London. The victims have not yet been identified. The driver, a 25-year-old man from Northern Ireland, has been arrested on suspicion of murder. In a statement, the police say they now think the trailer travelled from Zeebrugge in Belgium to Purfleet in southeast England. Let's now go live to Grays, and the BBC's Miriam Omar is from BBC Swahili, and she's been at the scene. Miriam, what more can you tell us?
As you can see, the cordon is still on and intact, and we still have plenty of police here. But just under 2 hours ago, the vehicle was moved to a safer place for forensic examination of the bodies.
Now, Miriam, we know that this truck was discovered early this morning. Have the police spoken about how long it's going to take them to identify these bodies and where exactly they traveled from?
During the first statement, they said the examination will take a long time because it's a very delicate process. We don't know where they've gone, but we know they are working together with some national security agencies and some forensic experts. And according to the police, they say this is priority to them. They need to establish the identity of these people and to know why they were here. Were they smuggled in? Did they pay to come in? Or was it traffickers who brought them in?
And we know that one man has been arrested. Do we know anything at all about this 25-year-old?
So far, we've not had anything. What we know, he was arrested on suspicion of murder, and he is from Northern Ireland. That's what we know of now. But we keep getting stories keep trickling in, and I'm sure we'll update you as and when we get more of the information.
Okay, the BBC's Miriam Omar there live from Grays in East England. Let's take a quick look now at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. Boeing has announced a sharp fall in profits as its commercial performance has been affected by 2 fatal crashes of its planes. Revenue in the third quarter of this year was 20% lower than a year earlier. Both crashes in Ethiopia and Indonesia involved Boeing's 737 MAX aircraft, which has been grounded by aviation regulators since March. At least 3 people have been killed and several others injured during protests against the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The demonstrations were in the capital Addis Ababa, the Oromia region, and in eastern Ethiopia. They were in support of media owner Jawar Mohammed. He says the government is trying to remove his security detail. Campaigners in Tanzania have welcomed the Court of Appeal's decision to endorse a ruling that raises the marriage age for girls from 15 to 18. The government had appealed against the original decision, but the Court of Appeal ruled that the practice was unconstitutional and infringes the rights of girls. And the government of Kenya has ordered civil servants to wear locally made clothes on Fridays and during public holidays. The aim is to boost the country's manufacturing industry, a key policy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. It is also hoped that wearing made in Kenya clothes will increase interest in local heritage and help promote African style. The leader of South Africa's main opposition Democratic Alliance, Mmusi Maimane, has resigned. It comes after former party leader Helen Zille was elected to the second most powerful post in the party a couple of days ago. Mr. Maimane's resignation comes 3 days after the DA's Herman Mashaba resigned from the party and as mayor of Johannesburg.
Over the past few months, it's become more and more clear to me that there does exist a few within the DA who do not see eye to eye with me. I don't share the vision for the party and the direction it was taking. There have been several months of consistent and a coordinated attack on me and my leadership to ensure that this project failed or I failed. And therefore it is with great sadness that in order to continue this fight for the vision I strongly believe and the country I so dearly love, I will today step down as leader of the DA.
The people of Botswana have been voting today in a general election that's predicted to be pretty close. The BDP party, in government since 1966, is facing a strong challenge. In the background is a bitter argument between former President Ian Khama, who's fallen out with his successor Mongwitsi Masisi and has gone over to supporting the opposition UDC. All in a nation seen as one of the continent's more stable countries. Nomsama Seko reports.
Nearly 1 million registered voters cast their ballots. Some waiting in line from the early hours of the morning in the hope that their votes will improve the country's economy and tackle the high unemployment rate.
The BDP must help us Botswana people and give us jobs.
We are not working. I'm hoping that the candidate that will win will be able to improve, to come up with policies that will improve our lives and the policies that will take Botswana to a better future.
The person that I elect is able to manage and eradicate corruption. So yes, that's what I'm hoping for.
A bitter public spat between former President Ian Khama and the incumbent Mongwitsi Masisi dominated election campaigns and is likely to be the deciding factor. But Mr. Masisi is confident of a victory.
An overwhelming victory, overwhelming, landslide, right? I just want you to stick around and watch as people vote and the results come in. I'm excited.
With his shadow looming largely, former President Ian Khama announced shortly after casting his ballot that he'd voted for the Botswana Patriotic Front, a new party that broke away from the governing Botswana Democratic Party, which has been in power since independence.
We've never had a situation like that. It's things that we've read about that exist in other countries, where a head of state, a government, uses the organs of state, the security organs of state, to go after its opponents. That is alien to us in Botswana.
The governing party's strongest rival, a coalition of opposition parties called the Umbrella for Democratic Change, believes it has a good chance of taking over power.
We are dealing with the Botswana Democratic Party that is a pale shadow of what it once was, that is groping in pitch black darkness, that has no manifesto, that has no path whatsoever, that offers no hope to the people of Botswana.
There's very little to distinguish the presidential contenders on policy. But whichever party wins will inherit the task of tackling the country's high unemployment rate and inequality. Nomsa Masego, BBC News.
This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News with me, Peter Okwoche. Still to come, Mimi with the sports. Defending champions Toronto Raptors get off to a winning start as the NBA season tips off.
It was a winning start in the Champions League on Tuesday for last year's finalist Tottenham Hotspur, as well as for another British side, Manchester City. And there's more action to look forward to, 8 matches in total across Europe. Europa League winners Chelsea are currently playing last season's semi-finalist Ajax away in Amsterdam. And the defending champions Liverpool are in action in just over an hour's time. They're playing away to Belgian club Genk and are currently second in Group E. One of their African stars, Mohamed Salah, could return for the match as he's recovered from an ankle injury. The Egypt international suffered the injury before the international break, but another player who will miss today's fixture is Cameroon defender Joel Matip, who's been ruled out with a sore knee. Their opponents, Genk, are bottom of their group. Tanzania's captain Bwana Samata, who plays for them, says that everybody back home will be keenly watching the game.
A lot of them, and yeah, everybody's talking about the game of tomorrow. Everybody's talking about Ali and Van Dijk, you know, because everybody's speaking about Van Dijk is the best defender, so they just want you maybe do something against him. You have to pass him, you have to dribble him. But, everybody's talking about it, and I think a lot of them, they're going to watch the game tomorrow. But as a team, we are not focusing on one player. We'll try to win the game.
And Lille will be hosting Valencia in the Champions League today. One man to keep an eye out for, who has been in brilliant form for the club since he joined this summer, is Nigeria international Victor Osimhen. The 20-year-old already scored against Chelsea in the competition, and he won the September Player of the Month for Ligue 1 in France. I recently caught up with his national teammate Leicester City's Wilfred Ndidi about his qualities.
I know Osimhen is a fighter. Even in training, he plays. He's a striker, but he gets defenders injured. So it's something they should be aware of. Like, he's a dangerous striker. He can actually fill in the shoes of being a great player in Nigeria.
Oh, being a great player in Nigeria, indeed. Let's move to basketball, where the NBA season tipped off on Tuesday, and it was a winning start for the defending champions, Toronto Raptors, over the New Orleans Pelicans with 130-122 in overtime. Before it all started, the trophy took center stage for everyone to see, a sign of their huge achievement last season. Their stars of African descent also had a good night. Pascal Siakam with 34 points and 18 rebounds was a joint top scorer for the opening game, and with Serge Ibaka, who is of Congolese heritage, with 13. Former NBA star Luol Deng recently told the BBC that he thinks it will be difficult for the Raptors to retain the title.
I think it's going to be difficult. I think they still have a good team, but the thing with the NBA now, Raptors is one of the teams that have a chance, right? And whenever you have a chance, when it comes, and we saw it last year, when it comes to the playoffs, the healthiest team is going to win, right? So it's a lot of things that got to go your way, but there's a number of teams now that have a chance next year, and I think Raptors are one of them. It's going to be very difficult without Kawhi, but they still have a lot of vets and guys that know how to win.
Definitely lots of quality, the Raptors. That's it, Peter.
Many thanks, Vimy. Thank you very much. Now, as part of the BBC's 100 Women's series looking at extraordinary women around the world, we want to introduce you to someone who might leave you feeling inspired or at least just downright jealous. Jessie Nabongo has become the first black woman to visit every country in the world. A 2.5-year journey which she's chronicled on her Instagram account and blog. The Catch Me If You Can. The BBC caught up with her last week in Seychelles, the final leg of her world tour.
Welcome to North Korea.
I am a Ugandan American and I just completed my quest to visit every single country in the world. I think a lot of people would look at my Instagram and say, oh, this is #goals. But prior to me starting this journey, I saved my money and I prioritized travel in my life for more than, 2 decades. Part of what I did during this journey was use my Ugandan passport, and I used it for, I think, about 40 countries. And I did that to really show that while we may not be able to access certain places without a visa, accessing more than 40 countries is a lot because most people in the world will never go to that many countries. So I would say focus on traveling to places that give you visa-free access, no matter which passport you hold. But certainly passport privilege is a thing, and having an American passport absolutely helped me. But also having a Ugandan passport helped me as well. Having no hair, always wearing red lipstick, having very dark skin, I stand out in many places. Like in Uzbekistan, there were thousands of people taking my pictures, and though it becomes annoying after a while, I have to understand the context of where I am. In Uzbekistan, they haven't seen many black tourists, whether female nor male. In India at the Taj Mahal, there was a queue to take pictures with me, and we're like, there's a Taj Mahal. It can become annoying, definitely. Like, we're human beings. We don't want to feel like we're in a zoo, absolutely. But I think it's really, really important to understand the context and the fact that many people, especially in off-the-beaten-path countries, have never seen a black person in real life. That's the fact of the matter. I think we're living in very strange times right now where if you watch any media, no matter where you are in the world, you can start to feel like everyone hates each other. But honestly, what I've found is that most people are not racist, nor misogynist, nor homophobes, or any of those things. And that's one thing we have to remember. Even when it seems like things are going south, we have to remember most people are good. And the other key lesson is definitely that we are more similar than we are different. It doesn't matter your nationality, your race, your gender, your economic status. Like, we're all human beings, and we all need to think of each other as just another neighbor who maybe lives a little bit further away.
Very interesting, and congratulations to her. Now, just before we go and look again at our top story, at the start of the first ever Russia-Africa summit, President Putin has said that trade with Africa could be at least doubled in the next 4 to 5 years. He said Russia currently exports $25 billion worth of food and $15 billion worth of arms to Africa. Moscow is seeking to restore its influence on the continent, which has waned since the end of the Cold War. It is selling itself as a dependable partner and as an alternative to China's expanding presence in Africa. Now, don't forget, you can get in touch with me and some of the team on social media. I'm at Okwoche. But for now, from me, Peter Okwoche, and the rest of the Focus on Africa team, thanks for watching, and see you again very soon. Goodbye.